So, I think you've guessed by now why I did not record and upload a video yesterday. Because we were in New York. We were in New York City. And yesterday was the day that we traveled home. We drove there on Friday. We left first thing in the morning, and it took us a really long time because we kept stopping for coffee. And, well, when you stop for coffee a lot, you need to stop to use the bathroom a lot. So it was, and then it was a whirlwind weekend, and we drove home yesterday. We left at 8:30 in the morning, and we got home by around 6:30, and we're just in time to have supper with the kids and visit with the family. So it was an amazing time. It was great. It was a very quick, very short trip, but you know, we have young families, so we don't tend to take really long vacations away without them. We prefer to travel with them, so who knows where we're going to go next, but the next trip will definitely be with them. So it was Thanksgiving weekend down in the States, as most of you know, and New York City was shockingly full of people. I mean, I've been there before, and it's busy. I have never seen anything like it, the way it was this past weekend. It was literally, for those who don't love crowds of people, and I happen to be one of them, it was overwhelming. It was completely overwhelming. We went to the Museum of Modern Art to see the Michelangelo exhibit, and it was so stuffed with people that it was really hard to see anything, which was a little disappointing. We even waited until later on the Sunday to go because we had thought maybe, you know, people would start going home by that point and it would be a little easier to sort of navigate around, but it wasn't. It was absolutely chock-a-block with people. So that exhibit was, you know, it was really hard to get up close and look at anything because, again, there were just way too many people. But we then, you know, I sort of convinced John to take me elsewhere in the museum because I knew there are always, you know, artifacts and tapestries and rugs, any kind of museum that you go to, and that's what I want to see when I go to a special place like that. And they did not disappoint. There was a wonderful exhibit and sort of Turkish and the name has completely escaped me. I'm going to insert a few pictures here because I took some photographs of some of the rugs that I saw. Rugs, weavings, storage vessels that were made from, you know, from weavings and then sewn together into bags, you know, that would have been transported across the desert on a camel. I mean, mind-blowing things. And the beauty of the textile exhibits, at least at the MoMA, is that they don't put them behind glass, most of them. Some of the really old ones were behind glass, but some of the other ones were just, you know, hanging on the wall behind a rope. And as long as you didn't touch them, you could get, you know, within inches. And believe me, I stuck my face right up there to have a really close look because I find it completely fascinating, you know, how old these rugs are, and just seeing the intricacy of the weaving and the beautiful, beautiful colors and fabulous intricate designs. So I'm going to put just a couple of pictures in here for a little teaser. What else I'm going to do is I'm going to upload all of the photographs that I took from that exhibit onto a blog post on www.offthegridneedlearts.com, which reminds me, I don't think I've introduced myself yet today. I just kind of jumped right into it, didn't I? My name is Caroline. If you're new here, if you're a new viewer, my name is Caroline, and Off the Grid Needlearts is my home on Instagram and my blog and now my Flosstube channel. So welcome if you're new, and if you're coming back and watching me again, I really appreciate you spending some time with me. So I'll put those pictures up on the blog, www.offthegridneedlearts.com, and then you can enjoy them too, because it just made my day. It made up for the fact that I almost had a small panic attack in the Michelangelo exhibit because of the amount of people. The sheer volume of people that were in there made me very uncomfortable. I'm a very tall woman, and I'm not a small, tall woman. So, you know, I don't have a problem taking up space. But when it's that sort of claustrophobic, you feel there's nowhere to go. There is really nowhere to go, and you are constantly either bumping into someone or someone is walking in front of you, and I just don't like being that close to a lot of people that I don't know, a lot of strangers. So once we were out of that exhibit and into the rest of the museum where it was a little quieter, I was much happier. And then from there, we had walked all the way through Central Park, because if you watched my photos at the beginning, the very last photo that I showed you was the Tom's restaurant. That is the diner that was used in Seinfeld. Not the inside of the diner, but the outside, the sign. So we actually ate breakfast at Tom's Diner, and then we walked all the way through Central Park from one end all the way to the other, stopped at the museum, and then carried on walking back to the hotel. So it was a long day, but it was really fun. And then, you know, we did a couple other things. We went up Rockefeller Center, and, you know, took some wonderful photographs up there, enjoyed the view. It was a beautiful day. The weather this weekend was astounding. We couldn't have asked for better weather. It was sunny the whole time we were there, you know, sort of 8 to 12 degrees the whole time. It was just absolutely perfect, just perfect. So we really enjoyed our time. Did you hear that? That was my ringtone on my phone. It's the hustle. Sorry. My kids think it's ridiculous. But anyways. I have a few bits of newsy things to share with you today before I show you some show and tell. I have show and tell today. First thing is, I am on a mailing list for the cross-stitch designer Modern Folk Embroidery. And this is, his first name is Jacob. And if you are not familiar with his designs and you enjoy sort of Quaker style pieces, Jacob's designs are really modern folk embroidery. His title says it all, and they are stunning. They are absolutely beautiful. They are monochromatic, usually in design. He shows them off usually on either a pale gray or a cream linen with an individual color that he does the entire design on. He's having a sale at the moment, a Cyber Monday, sort of Black Friday sale. And he's continuing that sale on to Friday or Saturday of this coming weekend, December 1st or 2nd. I can't quite remember which one it is. But if you're watching this video in the next couple of days, check him out. His patterns are now 25% off for the next few days until the weekend. And if you've never heard of him, check him out. You, I suspect, will fall in love with his patterns. I bought some Christmas patterns of his last year, and I fully intend to hop on there in the next couple of days and choose a few more because I love them. So there's my little bit of enabling today. I'm sure there's more, so don't worry. The other thing is that I had a couple of questions. One of them was on Friday or Thursday when I put out the Stitch With Me video. I mentioned the detailer on the back of your work when you can, how I use extra little bits of floss to sew in ends. And I had a few of you interested in a little demonstration, which I'm happy to do. I'm going to save that until Friday's episode when I actually have my stitching right in front of me, and I'm going to purposefully either make a mistake or cut off my thread so that it's really, really short, purposely make a mistake so that I can show you how I would repair something like that on the back of my fabric. There is actually a tool called a star detailer. I cannot remember which company makes it, but it definitely exists. I definitely have one. I have no idea where it is, and that's why I just make do with a piece of floss. The star detailer itself, the little tool, is very nice. It's better than using a piece of thread, but it's not better if you can't find it. So, and I'm not buying a second one because I know it's here somewhere. I just need to find it. So the star detailer, I will show you how to use the thread method at least on Friday. And thanks for asking. The other question that I had that I can sort of answer today, because it's kind of a tricky, it's not a tricky question. It's just there's no easy answer for it. I had a question from Megan about washing projects with non-colourfast threads. And I know a bunch of stitchers watching this have either groaned or nodded in sympathy with this question, because this is a good one. And it's a big question. It's an important question. And so, Megan, I think you mentioned you're a fairly new stitcher. So the fact that you're already thinking about this or, questioning this is good because it can be a problem. Okay, so non-colourfast threads generally tend to be marked as such, okay? So your over-dyed cottons like Weeks Dye Work, oh, my brain is shutting down. You know what I mean. Classic Color Works, any of those guys, okay? Silks as well. Silks may not be color fast. The biggest culprit is going to be your reds. Red really is troublesome, and Heidi from Stitching 1/2 knows of what I speak, because her episode last Monday, Stitching 1/2, she had finished a Christmas design. It's adorable. So you should go and watch her podcast because A, she's super fun, and B, her project, she finished it beautifully. It's Santa riding, I think he's riding a sheep. And of course, the proportions are way off. So the sheep is the size of a horse, and then there's Santa sitting on top. And Santa's hat had some red. Either the hat was red. Yes, the hat was red. And when she was steam blocking the pillow itself, some water seeped through by accident, because she wasn't ironing the front of the design. She was actually ironing the back of the design. And some water from the steam iron must have dripped through to the front of the pillow and made the red of Santa's hat bleed just a little bit into the fabric. And so, obviously the pillow was finished at that point. So I don't think she was really wanting to take it all apart and try to scrub it. And you can always make it worse if you do try to do that. So I actually think her solution was ingenious. She simply glued a small, tiny little white pom-pom right to the spot, and it was the perfect location because it was right at the end of the hat. And so she just covered those little white stitches that were the pom-pom with an actual physical pom-pom. It's very small, it's very sweet, and I thought it actually added even more to the piece. So good job, Heidi. But that doesn't really answer your question about how to handle the piece that you want to wash. So I have found at least one really good source online that's going to give you a lot more detail than I'm going to give you right now. So again, I'm going to point you over to the blog, www.offthegridneedlearts.com, and I'm going to put a link to the site where I found what I thought was really good advice. In a nutshell, don't wash silk threads. So if you're stitching with silk and you've spent the money on silk, they don't recommend that you wash it, period. You can also, if you want, you can try, before you start stitching a project, you can try washing a little bit of the thread that you would like to use and test if it's going to actually bleed dye into the water. But in all honesty, and here's my short form answer for you, I am lazy in some ways. Not lazy as in I don't want to do anything and I never do anything. Lazy as in I'm always looking for a shortcut because I want to spend the time that I have doing the things that I want to do, and not sort of fiddling around with things that I think are unnecessary to the way that I want to do things. People are different. Everybody likes a certain level of, exactedness or how they like to do things, which I think is pretty normal. So this is just me and my method, being lazy, wanting to move on to the next thing. I don't wash my projects, ever. Unless there was one time that I dumped a cup of tea on a prairie schooler, and it was an off-white linen. I did immediately rip it off the Q-snap, soaked it, washed it, and I got lucky because nothing bled on it. And I think that can be it. You can get lucky and it won't bleed, but you can also get unlucky and it will bleed, and then it's pretty hard to fix after that. It's pretty hard to fix. I'm not sure there is actually a really good way to fix it if it does bleed. So my advice is, if it's not something that's precious, if it doesn't appear to be dirty, if you had clean hands while you were stitching, as in you were using your, you weren't eating Cheetos. I had to laugh. The Cheetos. Apparently it's called Cheeto dust. So it's not orange crumbs. It is called Cheeto dust. And thank you for that, because I thought that was quite funny. If you're not stitching with stuff on your hands and not a lot of really goopy hand cream, I don't really think that there's a reason to wash your project. But I don't stitch in hand. I stitch on a frame. I stitch on a Q-snap. I stitch with my fabric stretched. And so I'm not always holding that fabric scrunched up in my hand. And I think for stitchers who do, it's probably a lot more important that they wash their fabric, because that's a lot of handling. Even if you have clean hands, our hands, we have natural oils in our skin, and of course that transfers into the fabric. So as you can see, it's a tough question, and there's really no good answer. If you can get away with it, I probably wouldn't wash it. And if you do have to wash it, I would go slow, cold water. Don't agitate it a lot. Maybe just leave it in there and just soak it with some. There are a few products that I really like. One of them is Canadian. It's called Soak. It's kind of like, it's not like Woolite. It's not. It's a wool wash. Okay. There's also Eucalan is one. And I think there's at least one more, but Eucalan and Soak are the two that I know of. They're not cheap, but you use a teeny, teeny, tiny little amount. And you don't have to rinse it out. So the beauty of it is, you put some in the water, you agitate the water gently with your hand, and then you place your work, either your stitching or your knitting, into the water, and you just let it soak for, up to half an hour. And then very carefully you remove it from the water, roll it up in a towel, squeeze out the water. But if the red is going to run, it is going to run. So I hope that was helpful. I don't feel like I really gave you any good advice. So I guess my best advice is stitch with clean hands, stitch in a frame, and don't wash your work. So other than that, that's all I've got. So I hope that helped. Anyways, I think that was it for questions today. If I see any more, or if any more come in through the messages, or either through my email, caroline@evertote.com, comments on the videos, or Megan actually sent me a message through YouTube that arrived in my email, which was, I had never received one of those before, so that actually was very handy. Feel free. I love to find out stuff. So happy to answer, happy to look up information if I don't already know it, or I can ask Kathy at Thread and I, who is a great resource. I have actually asked her as well about washing your colourfast, non-colourfast threads, but I had to record this video before I was able to get a response from her. It's a business day and she's working. She's hard at work. So if she sends me a response that is anything different or has any extra information that I can give to you, I'm going to pop that into Friday's video. So thanks, Megan. Okay, so I have some show and tell, which I've been looking forward to sharing with you. So it's time to decorate for the holidays, and my two favorite decorations in the whole wide world are two things that I made myself. So the first one is this little Mill Hill bead kit, and it was a kit. Isn't it the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life? When I finished this, I couldn't stop crowing about it to John, and he just rolled his eyes and he said, "Yes, dear, it's very nice. It's kind of small. Where are you going to put it?" But I loved it. This was the very first project that I ever put beads on. I'd never done any beading before, and it was really fun. It was really, really fun. I can't say enough about the Mill Hill kits. They're very well put together. They're very well made. The instructions are very clear. Everything is really cute, very well done. So, again, Mill Hill, the Noel, it's an ornament kit, and it is stitched on perforated paper, and the paper was red and came with the kit. Everything that you needed to do this came in the kit, and making this little strap was really fun. Seems like it would be, a chore, but it wasn't. It was really fun. I'm just looking at the timestamp, and it's like 22 minutes. It's 22 minutes in, and I'm only just getting to showing you the stitching. I hope you're still with me. So anyways, so that's my first little bit of show and tell that I wanted to share with you. And next, are you ready? Ta-da! I love this so much. This was the very first time I had finished anything in a box finish. You can see the side there. And this was, I've talked about the retreat that we have done with Thread and I twice a year. This was an October retreat design that we all worked on together, and we tried to finish the stitching. I think I did actually finish the stitching on the Saturday, and then we learned how to do the box finish on the Sunday. And as you can see, mine needs a little bit of love and care because I've lost a pin from the top. So if I do this, you can see how I did that little bit at the top. See that? So the way the ribbon worked was quite interesting. You get one long length of ribbon, you sew it together, the two ends together, and then that becomes the bottom of where the ribbon sits. And then you wrap the sides up to the top. And so this stuff up here, there are no ends up here. It's just a long, long piece of ribbon that's a big loop. And then you make the folds in the ribbon to make the top there. And you just pin each individual, if you can see, there's a little pin tuck in there. You just pin them in. So it's a foam core center, and I believe, you know, it was just from Michael's. And it's a foam core center. I think it was 2 pieces that were glued together, if I'm not mistaken, and then cut out into squares. But it might have just been 1 piece. I can't remember. This was at least 5 years ago. The design linen on the front, a coordinating piece of fabric on the back, and then the same size. So each piece was the same size. You started with the design on the front, and just like, you know, hospital corners when you're making a bed or, you know, wrapping a present, you do one side at a time. And I'm wondering if I can move this so you can see. And you pin it into place all the way along, and then you fold down the corners so you've got these neat edges, and you just pin them into place. And then you do the exact same thing with the fabric that goes in the back, and then you just cover up the seam with the ribbon. That's it. It's quite simple. And really, you know, other than that, I don't think you need much more of a tutorial than that, other than, you know, experiment with it. There's no right way, wrong. There's no glue involved in it. There's no glue. There's nothing in it that you would ruin if you made a mistake. And you can see I've got extra little pins at the bottom here holding these down. So I could have been a bit tidier and tucked those, you know, under the ribbon. But it's the bottom of the design. Who cares? No one's going to see it. So this is a Little House Needleworks design, Holly and Berries. And we used Vicki Clayton's hand-dyed fibers silk threads for this. And that was the very first time that I had ever used silk thread. And Kathy was, you know, introducing us. She was enabling us into trying silk threads, and I liked them a lot. So that's why you've got the sort of color variations. The variegated thread does that. So it was a really, really fun stitch. I enjoyed that. And the finishing, every year I put it out and I think, oh, I love that so much. I really should make some more. And I haven't yet, but I will. I'll get around to it. So again, there you go. That's my show and tell. I hope you liked it. Okay. Works in progress. As you know, I was away. I did take some stitching with me and some knitting. So I worked on my shawl that I am trying to finish in a little competition that I have with a friend, Louise, from the Fiber Friends podcast. She is knitting her miso shawl, and I am knitting my Noctilio shawl from Lisa Much from NBK Knitting. And so I did take that. I worked on it. I wasn't feeling great in the car, so I didn't get as much knitting done as I was hoping for, but I'm still hoping that I'm a little bit ahead of Louise. But we'll see on Friday when I record that podcast with them. That's when we're going to share with each other. So I'm going to record that podcast in the morning with them, and then I'm going to record the Stitch with Me in the afternoon. So it's going to be a busy, busy week. The stitching that I took with me was my, again with the Little House Needleworks, Main Street Station. And this is from the Hometown Holiday Series, and it's chart number 2. I think it's from 2013. And, oh, you can see there's a box finish right there. Same thing. The ribbon on this one's a little wider, and I think that's super pretty too. And I think they've done the top. Can you see it? Isn't that? Because it doesn't matter if I show it to you like this, does it? It's the same as if I show it to you like this. Our perspectives are sometimes funny, aren't they? Anyways, so that's what I was working on. And I meant to finish the thread that I was working on this morning before I recorded, but I cannot see very well with my contacts in to stitch. I can't stitch with contacts in anymore. Without, I would have to wear reader glasses, and that seems kind of silly. So I just left the thread where it was. So this is where I'm at. It's coming. I've actually done quite a bit. I love the fabric. It's 28 count cashel linen, and I'm using 2 threads over 2. So now, after last week's video, you know what that means. 2 threads over 2 strands. No, 2 strands over 2 threads. That's a better way to say it. And I've just started my little, I think that's the conductor's hat and his tie. I can't remember. And then the train will be here. So, very, very enjoyable stitch. Loving it. Little House Needleworks. So there you go. And I'm afraid that as far as stitching goes, that's it. That's all I had. I know a few episodes ago I asked about people to let me know if there were stitching stores in New York. And, you know, some people really were very helpful and tried to give some suggestions. There really isn't very much. Probably the best answer I got was that there were 2 needlepoint shops, and one of them apparently had a few cross-stitch supplies. And also, Sylvia mentioned that if I didn't mind driving over into New Jersey, that there was a great needlework shop there. And I want to say Needlework Necessities. Am I right? I'm going to have to look that up. There's a shop called Needlework Necessities in New Jersey that apparently has wonderful hand-dyed fabric. We did not go there because it would have added about an hour and a half onto our drive home, and we already had a really long drive home. So sadly, we didn't go. I also, you know, I thought about it. This was the very first time that on a little trip, on a little holiday, that I did not buy myself a craft-related souvenir. Because, you know, nothing really caught my fancy. I didn't go to either of the needlework shops because I have needlework. I have some tapestries already in my stash that I have not worked on yet, and they're gorgeous and they need to be stitched. So I wasn't going to take some time out of our trip to go to a shop where they may only have, you know, a tiny little cross-stitch section. So I also thought, I have a pretty fabulous local needlework shop right here where I live. So I am taking the money that I would have used to buy myself a souvenir, and I am going to thread and eye later this week, and I'm going to buy myself a little souvenir. At least that's what I'm calling it. The Lizzie Kate Christmas Mystery Sampler that I think it's completely out now. People have actually finished the design. I ordered that in October, and it's come in and it's been waiting at the shop for me, and I am going to buy that, and that's going to be the money that I would have spent on something in New York. I'm going to spend it at my local needlework shop instead because, well, I need to put my money where my mouth is, right? And that's what I said on Friday, and I do believe in supporting Kathy. So there's that. The other thing, supporting small business, supporting Canadian designers and sellers. We have a viewer and stitcher, fellow stitcher and pattern designer. Her name is Patty, and she lives out in Newfoundland. And if you know anything about Canada, Newfoundland is one of our, Canada is a beautiful country. Newfoundland is spectacular. And the funny thing about Newfoundland is that most Canadians seem to either have a friend or know an acquaintance who is from Newfoundland. The people from Newfoundland are known for their kindness and friendliness and generosity of spirit. And getting to know Patty a little bit, it only proves that point. Patty is also a knitter. That's how I met her first. She has a knitting podcast, and the name of her podcast is 4 Boys and a Newfoundland Girl. And I will put the name of her podcast here. Watching Patty is like sitting in your living room and having a chat, a crafty chat with a friend. She's warm, she's funny, she's engaging, and her projects are really fun. And she has designed some cross-stitch patterns. So last week, at the end of last week, I purchased a very, very typical Newfoundland scene that Patty has stitched. It has icebergs. It has the colored houses that Newfoundland is really known for. Just beautiful designs. And the colored buoys are on the bottom. And I'm going to insert a picture of the design here because I can't show it to you on my phone. I could show it to you on my iPad, but I'm recording this video on my iPad. So I will insert a picture here of that design. Isn't it cute? I know, right? So I have a friend from Newfoundland, a very good friend from Newfoundland. She is not a stitcher, but she is stitch worthy, and I know she would love it. I know she would really appreciate it because she misses home. She misses her friends and family from Corner Brook, Newfoundland is where she's from, and she's been living here in London, Ontario for over 20 years. But Newfoundland is still home for her. So I'm going to stitch that for her. It's not going to be a Christmas present. I'm not going to tell her that I'm stitching it for her, and she never watched this video, so she will have no idea that I'm actually doing it for her. And I sometimes think that that's best when you're making something for someone, is to not tell them about it and not have a deadline, because I did that. I've done that before over and over again, and I finally learned my lesson and decided that I wasn't going to do that anymore because it makes me very grumpy at the holidays. And John said, okay, no more. You can't do that anymore because it makes you very difficult to live with. So I'm not saying he's wrong. So that's why I'm just going to stitch it at my own pace, my own time, and she'll get it when she gets it. And that's that. So that's it for me for a stitching update today. Little teeny bit of a shop update today. I don't even, if you watched last week's stitching video, Stitch With Me video, you've already seen this. So for most of you, this is not a surprise. And you've seen it on Instagram. I've come up with a 2017 Evertote medium holiday wedge tote. Just like the holiday cups that come out from Starbucks and Tim Hortons, Evertote needed a bag. So we have a holiday bag. And it is a wedge tote. It's a medium wedge tote, boxed bottom, perfect for ornament storage while you're working on your ornaments. You can stuff a fair number of ornaments in here. Good space. And it comes with a coordinating notion tote. I have a few left on the shop. I'm going to keep them up until the end of this week, and then I'll be taking them down on Friday. Whatever number hasn't sold, because I'm making these all this week and I'm shipping them all out by December 5th, which is next Tuesday, a week from today. They will all have been put in the mail by next Tuesday. Those who ordered first they will be receiving their notifications today and tomorrow. The first batch is going out tomorrow morning, and Thursday for the rest of the first batch that were sold. The second batch that's gone up, I'm just going to leave the listing up for a couple of more days, and then I'm going to take it down because we are listing our Fiber Friends winter kit. Pre-orders go up on Thursday. If your name was on my list, you'll be getting an email from me, and the remainder of the bags are going up on Friday afternoon. This is a kit. This is the third one that we've done because we only started doing this in March. We are doing 4 a year. They are seasonal, and there's still a couple of the fall kits. If you would like to see an example of what we're putting out, there's also a sneak peek of the fabric that I'm using in the bag on my Instagram Evertotes page. And so this kit is coming with a medium wedge tote, a notions tote, which we haven't done before, so that's new, a skein of worsted weight yarn that coordinates with the bag. Adrian dyes the yarn to match so that it's complementary to the bag. And then Louise, my third partner in crime, is a knitting teacher and designer, and she has designed a hat pattern to use the skein of worsted weight yarn to to knit the hat. So the three of us, this is, it's super fun for us. It's a lot of work. So that is coming out Friday. And the pre-orders have gone quickly, so the bags are actually already half sold. We're making 30. That's as many as we can comfortably make, and have good customer service and, quality control. Possibly in the future we might consider making a few more than that if we can start them a little sooner. But we've already sold half, so we're kind of excited about that because it's fun. And I think that's it. Ink Circles Tapestry Stitch Along. We're starting on December 16th. If you'd like to join in, it is a gorgeous pattern. A Stitch Too Far was the one who suggested that we start this on December 16th. And I think also Instagram friend Kim in Canada. What a great name. She's in. And Crafty Kim from Hamilton is also in. And I know that there are a few more off the top of my head. I can't remember, but I know there's a few more of you, at least a few more. If you'd like to join us, there are no rules. This is a very laid back stitch along. I suspect that everyone else will be done their piece before me. That's why I'm making the rule that there's no rules. You can finish when you finish and there's no deadline. It's just fun to be stitching the same piece as everyone else. At least starting the same piece with everyone else. And that's it for me. So thanks for joining me again today. Thank you for subscribing and liking the video and leaving me comments. I received some really, again, as always, you guys just make me smile. And I really appreciate that you take the time to do that. And I'll see you on Friday for Stitch With Me. What am I going to work on Friday? I don't know. I don't think I can do another video with the Woodland Santas. I think you guys might be tired of those. Some of you would be very kind and say, no, we want more Santa and reindeer. But I think that's 3 videos now with the same project. So I'm going to continue stitching on that on my own. And how about Winter Quakers? How about I work on Winter Quakers? Because that would be a good one to show the star detailer on the back. And also I can show you the pin stitch. I know lots of people have done little tutorials on the pin stitch. Stitcherista, by the way, and maybe I said this last week, Stitcherista does really great little short either tutorial videos or product review videos. And I'm not biased at all since she reviewed Totes bags, but she does a whole whack of review videos and tutorial videos. She just did one on stitching with silk thread. And if you have never used silk thread, her tutorial was excellent. You should check it out. So it was enjoyable to watch, and I like watching those. Like I've said before, even though you think you know everything, you've been doing this for your whole life, forever and ever, there's always that one little bit of information that you thought, never thought about it like that. It's a really good idea. So that's it. I will see you on Friday. I hope you join with me. Facebook, Friday Off the Grid. It's a closed group. Request to join. And the projects on there are incredible. Also, the hashtag on Instagram is hashtag Off the Grid Friday Party. And that's it. Okay, happy stitching. See you Friday.